right now we are trying to understand how can India largely mitigate the impact. Now, as the US tariffs threaten to disrupt India's trade with its largest trading partner, India must explore a range of strategies now to mitigate the impact and maintain its economic growth. Let's try and understand and take a look. There is largely a need to diversify export market and boost trade with other partners. Now, by diversifying export markets and strengthening trade with other global partners, India can largely reduce its dependence on the United States. Now, exports to the United States, according to the data in 2020, India had exported to the United States for 51 billion exports, while trade with Asian and the UAE showed growth, offering opportunities for diversification as well. Now, moving on, let's try and understand another way to mitigate this impact of Trump's tariff plan that has now been slapped against India as well. Sees US tariff gaps with other countries. Now, countries like Japan and EU will benefit from favorable US trade deals, but India can target these markets that face fewer tariff barriers also. Next, we have a push for $500 billion bilateral trade agreement by 2030. Now, the current trade, viewers, is a bilateral trade between India and the US is $146 billion, and a target of $500 billion by 2030 would largely require a 245% increase in overall tariffs, particularly in the IT, healthcare and defense sector. So, a push for these bilateral trade agreements could largely help India to mitigate the kind of impact that the Trump's tariff plan will now be levying. Now, expand the PLI scheme to grow domestic production. This is a very pertinent and a peculiar way to mitigate for India. The Indian government has largely allocated rupees 1.97 lakh crores. That sums out to be largely $26 billion for boosting manufacturing across 13 sectors, which has also attracted investments in electronics and mobile manufacturing. So, expanding this PLI scheme could also help India take the large impact of the US tariffs. Now, India might also allow rupee depreciation to make exports competitive. Now, past impact of the rupee depreciation in 2013 was a 10% depreciation in the rupee, which boosted exports by 5%. Now, a similar move could also be taken into consideration at this point of time, where Indian goods, which are more competitive in global market, will also help India mitigate the impact. So, these are the latest inputs that we're tracking, and this was the data that we've shared with you on how India can also mitigate the impact. Now, let's listen into what more Donald Trump had to say.
India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe. But they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it.